Welcome to this technical summary of a recent paper published in Materials and Design. This work investigates the development and characterization of photocurable resins based on PEG-PLA star-shaped copolymers for stereo. This study explores the development of photocurable resins based on star-shaped PEG-PLA copolymers with different molecular weights and compositions, enabling their use in stereolithographic 3D printing for actuators that respond to hydration. The question at the heart of the work is how to synthesize and optimize resins that merge effective photocuring with tailored swelling behavior to achieve controlled shape transformations after printing. This is important because responsive materials capable of changing shape under physiological conditions could be transformative for biomedical applications, including temporary implants that biodegrade safely. The authors approached this by preparing two resins differing in PEG arm length and lactide content, then characterizing their photo-cross-linking kinetics, swelling-induced volume changes, and printing feasibility. Key aspects involved establishing working curves describing cure depth versus exposure, printing single and dual material constructs, and validating shape changes by combination of imaging and numerical modeling. The integration of characterization and modeling provides a predictive framework towards designing 3D printed architectures that actuate on hydration. Figure 1 presents the working curves of two resins at 365 nanometers wavelength, characterizing their cure depths as a function of exposure time. Panel A shows data for the PEG 8-arm 10K-PLA69 8MC resin, while Panel B depicts the PEG 8-arm 20K-PLA13-MC resin. These curves are fundamental for stereolithographic 3D printing, as they describe how deeply the resin crosslinks at given exposure energies related to the irradiation time. The authors used a classical relationship from Jacobs to quantify this effect, linking cure depth to energy input during photopolymerization. Understanding these curves allows setting precise layer thicknesses and exposure times for accurate printing. The difference between the two resin chemistries, particularly in molecular weight and PLA content, affects their cure kinetics and depth. The regression curves fit the experimental data, enabling reliable prediction of polymerization behavior under specified printing conditions. This foundational study ensures that subsequent printing is consistent and optimized to produce robust cross-linked layers necessary for shape transformation experiments. Figure 2 shows visual results of cylinders 3D printed from the individual PEG-PLA-based resins. Panel A depicts cylinders immediately following printing. Panels B and C provide comparison images of cylinders based on the PEG 8-arm 20K MPLA13 8MC and PEG 8-arm 10K PLA69 8MC resins, respectively, after undergoing washing and drying, left-side images, and after swelling in water, right-side images. The production of these standardized cylinders, each 5 mm in diameter and height, serves as test objects for evaluating polymerization efficiency and swelling behavior. Post-printing washing in acetone ensures removal of uncured resin, and vacuum drying finalizes the solidification and stabilization of printed parts. These steps were essential to obtain consistent and reproducible materials for further physical characterization. Through these images, the authors interpret visually the distinct swelling responses of the two resins, as evidenced by size changes after hydration. Such swelling differences relate directly to the differences in polymer composition and are a basis for exploring how swelling mismatches enable shape actuation in dual material systems. Figure 3 summarizes the water uptake and volumetric swelling behaviors of the printed networks, with Panel A representing mass changes over time and Panel B showing volume changes, both averaged over 6 samples with standard deviations reported. These experiments assessed hydration-induced swelling to evaluate potential actuation abilities. Gel fraction measurements preceding the swelling tests demonstrated high photocuring efficiency, with gel fractions above 90% for both materials, specifically 92.3% for PEG 8-arm 10K PLA K69 8MC and 94.8% for PEG arm 20K, play K13 8MC. The slightly lower gel fraction of the former is explained by its higher molecular weight. Water uptake and volume both increased with immersion time, reaching a plateau approximately after 4 hours. The hydrophilic PEG 8-arm 20K, play K13 8MC exhibited a significantly higher water uptake of 176% and volumetric swelling of 226%, contrasting with 21% and 37% for the hydrophobic PEG 8-arm 10K, play K69 8MC, respectively. These pronounced differences indicate the capacity to drive shape changes by exploiting swelling disparities. Figure 4 illustrates the design and behavior of printed dual-material cylinders composed by stacking the hydrophobic and hydrophilic PEG-PLA-based resins. Panel A provides a schematic of the cylindrical geometry, where the hydrophobic material forms one section with the hydrophilic material layered on top. In the printing process, the hydrophobic part is printed first, excess resin removed. Then the hydrophilic resin is applied and printed starting from the hydrophobic layer's height. The strong adhesion between materials results from their similar chemical nature and solvent compatibility, which prevents shrinkage-induced delamination during washing and drying. Panel B shows photographs of the printed dual-material cylinder after post-treatment, and Panel C depicts the same object after water immersion. Immersion causes pronounced swelling of the hydrophilic portion, while the hydrophobic part maintains similar dimensions. This creates a dimensional mismatch at the interface, inducing tensile strain in the hydrophobic material and compressive strain in the hydrophilic layer. However, no delamination occurs due to robust interfacial bonding. Panels D and E show numerical modeling renderings before and after swelling, respectively, which accurately replicate the observed deformations. The authors interpret these results as confirming the feasibility of 3D printed actuators exploiting swelling mismatches in dual material constructs, with the numerical model successfully predicting shape transformations seen experimentally. Figure 5 presents advanced dual material designs targeting controlled shape changes upon swelling. Panel 1 illustrates two schematic representations of the dual material constructs, each comprising a hydrophobic rectangular base with an array of pyramid-shaped hydrophilic bars oriented differently, A widthwise and B lengthwise. These arrays are composed of linearly extruded triangular bars designed to enable hinged rotations and reduce residual stress at the material interfaces. The authors hypothesized that upon immersion in water, the hydrophilic bars would swell, expanding in width and height, and induce bending of the composite perpendicular to the bar's extrusion axis. Panel 2 shows photos of these 3D printed constructs after post-treatment, viewed both from the structured side and in side profiles. Panel 3 schematically depicts the expected bending directions driven by the anisotropic swelling. Panels 4 provide photos post-swelling, demonstrating that the objects adopt bidirectionally curled shapes corresponding to their initial bar orientations. Finally, Panel 5 shows numerical modeling results of the post-process geometries after swelling, supporting the author's intentions and sustaining judgment. Interpretation that swelling-induced stresses generate predictable and mechanically least stressed bidirectional curls. The rapid motion onset within the first minute of hydration and compatibility with physiological conditions underscore the promise of these materials. Figure 6 delves into advanced numerical modeling using the COMSOL software to design dual-material 3D printed structures that curl preferentially along a single axis. Panel A displays the modeled geometry with hydrophobic material shown in orange and hydrophilic in blue. The iterative modeling approach adjusted axial and perpendicular swelling strains to engineer shape changes. Panel B depicts the fully swollen structure, while panels C and D show views confirming curling around only the axial dimension with minimal curling along the perpendicular direction. This selective actuation is achieved by combining crossbar hydrophilic structures that induce stress perpendicular to the axis with axial bar structures that provide rigidity without causing curl. Notably, similar behavior cannot be attained using equal-height axial bars, underscoring the unique capabilities enabled by precise high-resolution 3D printing. Moreover, these actuators are composed of biodegradable biomaterials with linear degradation times of 50 to 150 days, depending on hydrophilicity, along with cytocompatibility validated by ISO 10993. Taken together, this work highlights the ease of processing, predictable swelling-related actuation, biodegradability, and biocompatibility, offering significant promise for the development of 4D-printed temporary medical devices. In conclusion, the authors successfully demonstrated a comprehensive approach to designing and fabricating photo-cross-linkable, star-shaped PEG-PLA copolymers tailored for stereolithographic 3D printing of hydration-responsive actuators. They first established the photopolymerization behavior of two distinct resins by constructing working curves relating cure depth to exposure time, enabling precise process control. Printed single-material cylinders confirmed efficient cross-linking and exhibited dramatically different swelling behaviors depending on their hydrophilicity, with the hydrophilic resin swelling up to 176% in mass and 226% in volume, while the hydrophobic control showed minimal swelling. These swelling differences were exploited in dual-material stacked cylinders with stable interfacial adhesion, producing bending into goblet-like shapes upon immersion in water. More complex dual-material geometries with oriented hydrophilic bars enabled controlled bidirectional purling confirmed by experimental observation and numerical modeling. Finally, advanced numerical design, focused on selective curling along a single axis, demonstrated the power of iterative modeling combined with precise 3D printing to engineer sophisticated shape transformations. Importantly, these printable biomaterials are biodegradable over months and exhibit cytocompatibility, underscoring their promise for future 4D-printed temporary medical devices. This study paves the way for integration of advanced polymer chemistry, additive manufacturing, and computational modeling to develop next-generation smart materials